This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Green. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. And I could not be any more excited right now. Probably one of my favorite guests, without doubt. He's been on the show several times and always entertains, never disappoints. The great Kirk Haston. Kirk, how are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me on, but I wish you would do more of under promise and over delivering on that, so I can have a little wiggle room.
I don't ever have to worry about that, man. You are always the top of the line. It's almost like having Jerry Seinfeld or somebody come on. It's like you're like the star, man. You're the top billing.
So this is the exact opposite of the favor I was just asking you. But we'll see how it goes.
Man, you are a man of many hats. You're coaching, you're teaching, you're husbanding, you're fathering, and now you're legislating. How do you have time to do all that stuff? You are so involved in the service of mankind, but man, you sure are stretched thin.
Well, I was this year, and that was kind of the trade-off. I told my wife that if I did win the election and was elected to serve in the House here in Tennessee, that I would step down from coaching. The issue with that was I couldn't step down from coaching, until I knew that I had been elected, and so there ended up being this about 4-week, this 4-week time period of overlap where. The legislature started in January, and of course we had about 4 weeks of our basketball season going on. So that was the 4 weeks that just about killed me. After I made it through that, it was kind of downhill the rest of the way during the session up until down to May. But I did end up stepping down from coaching after 9 years of high school basketball. So now I think the trade-off is going to be pretty good. I still stay pretty busy with doing my school work, but also with the legislative work. But I get a little bit more time at home, not having to go to practice and summer camps and everything. It'll be weird this school year getting home every day at like 3:00 instead of like 5:30 or 6 in practice. So I'm looking forward to that part of it.
And I know, like I said, you were stretched so thin, but there has to be a party that is going to miss the coaching basketball. You've been around it for so long; it's been a big part of your life.
Yeah, well, it's really been a blessing timing-wise because my oldest son is going into 5th grade, so he'll be playing some middle school basketball this year. It's the 5th grade's the first year they can start playing, and then my middle child is also going to go into basketball in another couple of years. He'll be going into 3rd grade, so. I'm just going to shift my team coaching into some individual coaching and just work with them and be able to go to their games. But when we do get around to district play in the season this year, it will be strange to be sitting in the stands and watching and not game planning and watching film. It will hit me a little bit harder than it will probably in the middle of the summer.
And now that you're not coaching, that should free up a little bit of time. Will that give you more of an opportunity to possibly get back to Bloomington and taking that game? Because when you're doing all that, you really don't have time to do anything, especially when you're in Tennessee.
Yeah, it was really like trying to, it was really a tough needle to thread during the basketball season to find games that I could go to in Bloomington. And I was able to get up, I think, to 2 or 3 games. I brought up some of my senior basketball players, usually during the Christmas break when we had about 4 or 5 days without a game, and it just so happened that the Hoosiers would be playing at home. So with no basketball schedule to have to kind of look at, I should be able to make it up hopefully for an extra game or two than I usually do. So and hopefully we'll be able to get up there, and I'd like to take my kids up and take it and show them around and kind of show them the old stomping grounds a little bit.
Now, have you had opportunity to talk to Coach Archie Miller much?
I haven't that much. He's reached out, social media and they've sent some emails and stuff out, and I have liked how, and I thought that Coach Coach Crean did a good job of this to begin with, and I think that Coach Miller is doing a really good job too of reaching out to past players and just kind of creating that family atmosphere that had, for whatever reason, seemed to kind of wane there for a few years. I think that we're getting back to where it's feeling more of an extended family, and you always want that. You always want the former players and managers and coaches to feel like they have a real, family connection to the current team each and every year. I think that's really important just for the strength of your program and just it creates a really good culture and atmosphere.
Well, talk about the family atmosphere, and for your era, I guess you have to go to the godfather of IU basketball, Bob Knight, and the fact that he came to a baseball game in Indiana last spring. I forgot about that. You were one of the last guys to get to play for him here. That had to be wild for you to see him back in Indiana last year.
That was great. That really did. I had to. It was one of the. I think I can't remember. I gave him credit when I retweeted the picture, but there was a really good photograph that somebody had posted on Twitter. I think it was somebody maybe at the local paper there, but it had a great picture of him. It was like him looking out, and they took a picture like down the press row there in the box. It looked like, and him watching the ball game, and it really was kind of a goosebumps deal because I know that things didn't, he left on some bad terms with some people that aren't even there anymore. And it's hard to have it's hard to have a family reunion when the family patriarch isn't a part of it. And the closer he gets to being a part of it. And I know he meets with players and talks to guys a lot. And, it doesn't have to take place in Bloomington for it to be, to qualify, but it is nice to see him start to come back some.
And now the fact that he has purchased a home in Bloomington and is expected to probably be moving here at some point soon, but it just continues, I think, to boggle the minds of so many people who for so long that divorce was there. And now to see that potentially thawing, as somebody who played for him and was actually on the last teams here that he coached, what does it mean to you to see that?
Oh, I can't remember exactly when I heard about that or who told me, but it just like, it really did take me. I was like, are you sure about that? Because it was like, everybody needs to probably make sure they have their souls right because Tiger Woods won a major and Coach Knight's moving back to Bloomington, and so everybody needs to make sure that everything's in line because it seems to be some strange things, but some great things happening. I was glad. I was just telling somebody this. I may have told you this story or not, but they were asking me the other day about, this kind of a family connection on my end. My granddad and Coach Knight strangely hit it off. My granddad was an old coach, but he's also a Church of Christ minister, so it's kind of an odd couple. But they talked several times when my granddad would come up. And, while Coach Knight was at Texas Tech, and he had just gotten his 880th victory, I think it was, and I had called to congratulate him. It was around about time that my granddad had actually remarried after my granny had passed away a couple of years previously. He'd found this great lady that attended church there, and they'd married. And that's not really, big news anywhere, especially in Lubbock, Texas, in the middle of a basketball season. Well, anyhow, I called Coach Knight, and I get him on the phone. I was like, Coach, I didn't want to bother you. Just wanted to congratulate you on the win. He said, Kirk, let me ask you a question. I said, yes, sir. He goes, did your granddad want to get married or did he have to get married? And I said, well, I have to this day, I have no idea how he knew that, but I was like, Coach, I don't think it was a shotgun wedding. I think my granddad is well past that point in his life. But it's just, it's stuff like that has always kind of, that people maybe don't get a good feel for how Coach Knight is behind the scenes sometimes.
And it's crazy. And your life has gone into different turns. I know that politics was probably not something you saw coming maybe 10 years ago, but it is from your game or from your life in basketball, the things you've learned. What have you taken from that into the political world? Because that's a whole different world for people, man. It
is, but there's, as with most things, I think playing sports for kids, I think is in a day and age when we're getting further and further away from wanting to hurt little Billy and little Susie's feelings, and everybody's doing good. Everybody gets a gold star. Sports is like a really true litmus test of the real world. You have to work hard. You have to work within a team concept. A lot of times you have to compete. You have to just deal with just heartbreak, loss, and things. You do everything right, and it still doesn't work out. Sometimes I'm like, this is the real world. And I would say it really applies to the political world and trying to, you think you're close to having, several times, there was a bill that I'd been working on, thought I was getting close, and, you'd have the rug pulled out from underneath you. And it's just, I'd say the key word that comes to mind that would apply to both is just adjustments, being able to adjust and be able to, to kind of scout out the next situation. You're scouting out the next team. You're trying to find out all the best angles and everything to attack an issue on the court. And that's all that is really similar to kind of the mentality you have to be a good legislator.
And how long have you been in office now? It's been like about a year?
But yeah, 1 year. I've got it's a 2-year term, so I've got another year, and then I'll be up for re-election, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I've enjoyed it so far. Every day. It took me a while to not feel like I was, about the first couple of weeks going to the Capitol every day. I felt more like I was back in, my grade school days, and I was leaving from taking a field trip every day, and I was just kind of, I got my pass. Like the first day, I got my little pass that keys you in. If you're ever in town, if you're here on like a Sunday night at 11 p.m., I can somehow, they've allowed me to be able to get into the Capitol at any point in time with this key card until further notice. Like I've taken some friends up there. We're probably going to sneak in some cornhole boards before the next election in case I don't get reelected, and sneak them in at about midnight just to say we've played cornhole on the House floor. But that first day I got my key card, I just remember walking around and walking past security guards and state troopers and just scanning cards and walking indoors and just waiting for somebody to kick me out, and they never did. So it's been fun, and as long as I enjoy driving to work each day and leaving work each day, I'm going to continue to pursue it.
Man, I'm coming down just to play cornhole in the Tennessee House floor. That would be amazing to be a part of that. And it's funny just to hear that kind of thought. But now that you've been into it for a year, and that reminds me, you talk about it reminded you of being a kid. And it's one of the things I was going to ask, because they always talk about in politics, the freshman senator from Tennessee or this, that, or the other thing. Did it make you feel like literally like back being a freshman, say at IU, when you got the seniors and the guys are just, they know what they're doing and all that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There is, in the loosest, I know that this word comes with a negative connotation these days, but in the loosest, funnest sense of the term, hazing, there is some freshman hazing. In college and in NBA, it was like, taking the bags, bringing the donuts every day. One day, Jamal Mashburn got mad at me because I was supposed to bring Krispy Kreme donuts to walkthroughs, and I brought Krispy Kreme donuts, but they weren't fresh and hot, and so I took some grief for that. And one of the things that they do when you present your first bill on the House floor, there is, one of the senior members on the House floor, one of the representatives will grill you about your bill, and usually it will veer off in some areas like they brought up my paltry NBA statistics on the House floor, and so all of a sudden you're in the well, and you're already sweating, and you're nervous if you're going to get your first bill passed. The cameras are on you, and you're there in front of everybody for the first time, sweating through your suit, and they're saying like, "Man, Kirk, you averaged 7 minutes a game your rookie year. No wonder you looked for a different profession to get into." It was that kind of stuff that they brought up, and so it was all in good fun. And I'm glad I have the first year behind me. I'm hoping that even though I'm technically still a freshman in my first term, it's usually the first year that you really feel like that kind of the greenhorn.
Now, you mentioned Jamal Mashburn, so I assume you're talking about your NBA rookie season.
Yeah.
And so you think, now he went to UK, so there's the UK-IU thing. Maybe it was more about UK-IU, man.
It could have been. I don't know what I did to tick off the basketball gods, but I got put on a team with Jamal Mashburn and Jamal McGlure. So I was living, and Robert Tractor Trailer. So it was just like this Hoosier purgatory in a way. But they were, I had a great time with all those. We always called McGlure Big Cat. Me and McGlure got in an argument one day because he and I played against each other in college, and we played at Freedom Hall, and we talked, and we argued one day in the locker room about the game, and I knew that we'd lost the game, but we were saying, he was like, I did this to you, young fella, young buck. I used to do this. I had this kind of game. And I said, no, you didn't. I did this to you. And so I got home, and I looked up the stats, and I came back the next day, and I said, Big Cat, I said, in that game, you had 4 points, 3 fouls, and 2 rebounds, and I had 4 points, 1 foul, and 3 rebounds. So let's neither one of us talk about this game ever again. We both stunk. And so, that's probably the thing that you miss the most, and this is probably pretty consistent when you talk to athletes. The thing you really miss the most, I miss the travel, and being with the team and being on the buses and the planes and in the locker room, and it's that kind of camaraderie that you just can't really duplicate that at any other work environment. And it's such a bizarre world to live in, where you're just going to gyms, and you're just it's just living out of a kid's dream, really. So I'm thankful that I had, even though it was a short time period of a career, I was glad to have had it.
Oh, I was glad for you to have had it. Now, and talk about that rookie year. What was the worst thing that they made you do as a rookie? Because a lot of times, like you said, they make you carry the bags or go get lunch or whatever it is, but it's always something.
Well, probably the best move that they did on me, the best move they gave me was the first game. It was a home game in Charlotte. They brought me in the huddle, and it was like the normal thing, a little pep talk from Baron Davis about what we were going to do that game. And then they were like, this is Kirk's first game, rookie, lead us out in the court. So they tossed me the ball to lead out the warm-ups. And so I'm like, yeah, let's go. And everybody just takes off running. And I get out there, and I start hearing laughter in the arena. And I'm like, what is going on? And I circle out to half court, and everybody's kind of giggling. And I get out to half court, and I look behind me, and there's nobody there. It's just me with a basketball. So the entire team had acted like they were running behind me, and then, I think it was Baron Davis that was second in line, and he would just stop and hold everybody back, and then they would backtrack back towards the locker room, and then you're just sitting out there for like 3 or 4 minutes dribbling at half court.
Oh, well, at least you had the court to yourself, man.
Yeah, that was my shining debut.
Well, now you're a signing legislature, and you're in a position that you've always been a guy. You've looked towards serving other people. Like I said, everything you do is in servitude, and which is great and admirable. What's some of the best things that you've been able to get done as a legislature?
Well, I'd say one of the big things that we did this year is we passed a bill that was called the Katie Beckett Waiver Act, and what it did was there was about 3,000 kids, special needs kids, that were needing special medical care, whose families were just above the minimum threshold to be eligible to get full medical coverage. And what this act did, and a lot of this goes to Governor Lee to be commended for pushing this through on his budget. They made room in the budget, I think it was around maybe $30 or $40 million. They made room in the budget to make sure that these 3,000, families were able to get some additional care, so that parents could stay at home a little bit more and not have to work extra jobs and everything. And it's those days when you leave that you really do have like some goosebumps about, like, we are doing some good. A lot of times it's some wheel spinning. But there was a lot of days like that where you felt like, after you talk with these families and meet some of these kids, that, it's worth kind of some of the headaches and some of the stuff you have to put up with when you can get some results like that.
Kirk, and that's got to be very so personally fulfilling to be able to do that. And when was it that you first thought about getting into politics? Because that's not an avenue that everybody goes, but you've got a great outgoing personality. But it's more about that. It's more about serving your community, and you do an exceptional job of that. But what led you to that point?
Well, I really think that at the root of it, and there's a lot of things in the pie chart that kind of play into that feeling of wanting to do it. But I think part of it at the root is, growing up in the community that I did in the district, even though I served 3 other counties besides my home county, there was a lot of support and a lot of help that I had, back when I was in college and the tornado came through and my mom was killed. There was just so much this community did to help me out and just came together and just the support that they gave me there. You just, at some point you feel like, you can't ever repay debts like that. It's just, those have a priceless value to them, but you just want to say, well, if I can do this thing and I feel like that, this is something that might help, the area and the community, if you don't take a shot at it, then you kind of have to look yourself in the mirror and be like, well, why? What are you scared of to do this? If these people are willing to help you out, you need to be willing to help them out sometimes. So that's part of it. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into it, but that's definitely somewhere in the conversation of the reasons why.
And losing a parent is probably one of the most devastating things that can happen to a person. I lost my mom this year as well, but it was not, yours was sudden, completely unexpected. You were a kid away at college and at a time of your life where there's so much upheaval as it is, but that had to be such a traumatic time for you and have such an impact on your life today.
Yeah, and one person, anytime that I talk about my college days and surrounding, losing my mom during those times, I can't have a conversation without thanking the Tim Garl, who has been with the basketball program forever, the trainer there, and he put me in touch with a really good counselor. And I'll just say this, it was kind of a tough thing to admit that you needed some help, especially when you're a 19, 20-year-old athlete and you're, like, I'm going to go talk about my feelings with somebody. And it was the best thing that could have happened to me. And having somebody there smart enough and that cared enough to say, like, listen, you're going to do this. You need to go talk to this person. If you don't like it, then, we'll reevaluate, but just give it a shot. And so, that was a big help. And so I always thank Tim Garl, for putting me in contact with a good counselor that helped me and I just commend anybody out there that is going through something. Don't be ashamed to ask for help, because I mean, there's people out there that have been through things and have that just know how to. The best way for people to get out of a hole sometimes is to talk with people that've been in that same hole, and so that's what I did, and it helped me.
It's funny. We live in this society where everybody gets a star. You actually mentioned it earlier in the interview, but unfortunately, people have a hard time sometimes admitting that they need help, but part of that is because society has shamed us into making that a weakness of sorts sometimes, and it's not. But it's a weird duality of society in those thoughts.
I really think, and I think that it could be turning a little bit. I've been really impressed with some people. Like, I think it was recently in the last couple of years that Kevin Love came out and put a voice to, like, that he had some, I think maybe some anxiety issues and stuff like that. And it's healthy for kids and everybody to know that, that there's some of the people that they look up to as role models and people like Kevin Love and some others. I know that there's a couple guys in the NFL that have come out and spoken to this as well, that, you're never too big, too strong or anything to ask for help and to seek some guidance. And so that, I know it was a big help to me.
And it always is. I hope that anyone in a position like that just to please do that. But and you've been a role model for things like that, and now you've got your kids that you're moving forward to. What are you wanting to show them most in the service that you're giving back to your community?
I think that one of the main things I've tried to be consistent with them, and I think this pertains somewhat to what the job I'm in right now, but for what they're going into with some of their endeavors, whether it's my daughter with gymnastics or my sons with golf and basketball, is and I want them to be even keel and not dread what it feels like after losses, in the car ride home and not feel too bad after losses and not get too full of themselves after wins you really have to just have a really, just consistent positive outlook and just realize that, you can't give you can't give people that are negative in your life the power to change your mood. So if you can find a way to be happy each day, no matter what negativity's out there, then you're going to be way ahead of the game.
And it's an incredible position to take and be on, and we're fortunate to have you on, and appreciate you always being there to visit with us. We greatly appreciate it. One thing we always ask, and it's getting tougher because you always have so many great ones, is to come up with a favorite story on the way out. You've told so many great ones, but and I know it's getting tougher because the more we do this, you're using all your good stuff up, man. So I don't know, what do you have left?
Probably the tough part is I can't remember the ones I've already told and ones I haven't told. It's probably the toughest issue. I will tell this one. This was, and have I told you? Did I tell you the about playing against Michael Jordan? Have I told you that story?
I do not recall if you did, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So it's not really anything greatly funny in this story. It's just one of the ones that my high school players always like to make fun of me about. Was I did get a chance in Jordan's final year when he was with the Wizards and I was with the Hornets. I got a chance to play in a game that he played in, and he and I in that game combined for 53 points. And I tell them, they always remind me he had 51 of them. And I did make sure to keep the stat sheet of that game, because any stat sheet that had my name and Jordan's name on the same sheet was one for a keeper. But I was 1 of 1 from the field that game, so he missed like 12 shots. I mean, who had a better game? So, but anyhow, the epilogue of the story is we're in the locker room after the game, and a ball boy comes over from the Wizards, and it was Jordan's last year, and Jordan was picking out a player that he'd played against a lot over the years that he respected from each team, and he would send over his game-worn shoes. And so Stacey Augmon was on our team, and so they brought the shoes in to give to Stacey, and it had a giant Michael Jordan autograph on each side of on the outside of each shoe. These brand new, because he only wore them one time famously, and would go to a new pair each game. Size 16 Jordan shoes that he just scored 51 points in at 38 years old, I think he was, or 37. And so I'm on the way to the bus. For some reason, nobody really wanted to do a lot of interviews with me and my 2 points. So I got done pretty early with the media, and I was on the way to the bus, and he's like, and Stacey was like, "Yo, Rook, can you carry these to the bus for me?" And I was like, "Sure." And so I'm just walking to the bus with these, game-worn Jordan shoes in my hands, and there was a lot of moments that I had going through my basketball life where I just kind of thought to myself, how in the world did I get to this point in my life? But I was like, this is the happiest I've ever been to carry some nasty, sweaty shoes in my hand. I just was hoping I didn't get mugged on the way to the bus.
Well, you should have kept one of them.
I wanted to work out a deal, but I think that those were locked. I think those were locked in.
Kirk, man, I can't thank you enough. You were always the greatest guest and so gracious with your time and everything with us. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks.
Brother, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you when you come up for a visit. Kirk Haston, former IU great. Kirk, have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Hey, thanks for listening to the rebroadcast from today's edition of Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, the only daily show dedicated to Indiana University athletics. You can catch us live each weekday on IndianaSportsBeat.com, TheDailyHoosier.com, GruelingTruth.com, or go to Spreaker.com for live notifications. Yeah, that's speaker with an R, SPREAKER.com. You can also catch the entire show any place you listen to a podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, etc. You can find and follow the show on Facebook or follow me on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers. Thanks again. I hope you have a great day. I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.